Namaste, Dandavat Pranam. By the instruction and grace of our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa, Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj, we are here reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 2, the Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 9, Text 39. Antarhi Tendriya Yartya Paraye Vihitanjali Sarva Bhuta Mayo Vishvam Sasharjedam Sapurvavat. On the disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, who is the object of transcendental enjoyment for the senses of devotees, Brahma, with folded hands, began to recreate the universe, full with living entities as it was previously. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is the object for fulfilling the senses of all living entities. Illusioned by the glaring reflection of the external energy, the living entities worship the senses instead of engaging them properly in fulfilling the desires of the Supreme. In the Hari Bhakti Sudhodaya 13.2, there is the following verse. Akshno phalam tvadrisha darshanam hi Tano phalam tvadrisha gatra sangha Jiva phalam tvadrisha kirtanam hi Siddhor labha bhagavata hi loke. O devotee of the Lord, the purpose of the visual sense is fulfilled simply by seeing you, and to touch your body is the fulfillment of bodily touch. The tongue is meant for glorifying your qualities, because in this world the pure devotee of the Lord is very difficult to find. Originally, the senses of the living entity were awarded for this purpose, namely to engage them in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, or that of his devotees. But the conditioned souls, illusioned by the material energy, become captivated by sense enjoyment. Therefore, the whole process of God consciousness is meant to rectify the conditional activities of the senses and to re-engage them in the direct service of the Lord. Lord Brahma thus engaged his senses in the Lord by recreating the conditioned living entities to act in the recreated universe. This material universe is thus created and annihilated by the will of the Lord. It is created to give the conditioned soul a chance to act, to return home, back to Godhead. And servants like Brahmaji, Naradaji, Vyasaji, and their company become busy with the same purpose of the Lord, to reclaim the conditioned souls from the field of sense gratification and return them to the normal stage of engaging the senses in service of the Lord. Instead of doing so, i.e. converting the actions of the senses, the impersonalists began to make the conditioned souls senseless, and the Lord also senseless. That is improper treatment for conditioned souls. The diseased condition of the senses may be treated by curing the defect, but not uprooting the senses altogether. When there is some disease in the eyes may be cured to see properly. Plucking out the eyes is no treatment. Similarly, the whole material disease is based on the process of sense gratification, and liberation from the diseased condition is re-engagement of the senses to see the beauty of the Lord, hear his glories, and act on his account. Thus, Brahmaji created the universal activities again. Text 40. Prajapatir Dharmapatir Ekadaniya Manyaman Vadram Prajanam Anvichan Atistat Sarvarta Kamyaya. Thus, once upon a time, the forefather of the living entities and the father of religiousness, Lord Brahma, situated himself in acts of regulative principles, desiring self-interest for the welfare of all living entities. Purport. One cannot be situated in an exalted position without having undertaken a regulative life of rules and regulations. An unrestricted life of sense gratification is animal life, and Lord Brahma, in order to teach all concerned within the jurisdiction of his generations, taught the same principles of sense control for executing higher duties. He desired the welfare of all as servants of God, and anyone desiring the welfare of the members of his family and generations must conduct a moral religious life. The highest life of moral principles is to become a devotee of the Lord, because a pure devotee of the Lord has all the good qualities of the Lord. On the other hand, one who is not a devotee of the Lord, however qualified he may be in the mundane sense of the term, cannot be qualified with any good quality worthy of the name. The pure devotees of the Lord, like Brahma, and persons in the chain of disciplic succession, do not do anything to instruct their subordinates without acting accordingly themselves. Text 41. Tam narada priyatmao riktadanam anuvrata sushrushamana silena prashrayena damena cha. Narada, the most dear of the inheritor sons of Brahma, always ready to serve his father, strictly follows the instructions of his father by his mannerly behavior, meekness, and sense control. Text 42. Mayam vividi san Vishnur, mayeshasya mahamuni, mahabhagavato rajan, pitaram paryatosayat. Narada, very much pleased with his father and desired to know all about the energies of Vishnu, the master of all energies. For Narada was the greatest of all sages and the greatest of all devotees, O king. Purport. Lord Brahma, being the creator of all living beings in the universe, is originally the father of several well-known sons, like Daksha, the Chatursanas, and Narada. In three departments of human knowledge disseminated by the Vedas, namely fruitive work, Karma Kand, transcendental knowledge, Jnana Kand, and devotional service, Upasana Kand, Devarshi Narada inherited from his father, Brahma, devotional service, whereas Daksha inherited from his father fruitive work, and Sanaka and Sanata, etc., inherited from their father information about Gyan Kand, or transcendental knowledge. But out of all of them, Narada is described here as the most beloved son of Brahma, because of good behavior, obedience, meekness, and readiness to render service unto the Father. And Narada is famous as the greatest of all sages because of his being the greatest of all devotees. Narada is the spiritual master of many famous devotees of the Lord. He is the spiritual master of Prahlad, Dhruva, and Vyasa, down to the forest animal hunter Kirata. His only business is to turn everyone to the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Therefore, all these features of Narada make him the dearmost son of his father. And all this is due to Narada's being a first-class devotee of the Lord. Devotees are always anxious to know more and more about the Supreme Lord, the master of all energies, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 10.9. Machchita madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam katayantas chamam nityam tushanticha ramanticha. The Supreme Lord is unlimited and his energies are also unlimited. No one can know them completely. Brahmaji, being the greatest living entity within this universe and being directly instructed by the Lord, must know more than anyone within this universe, although such knowledge may not be complete. Thus, it is the duty of everyone to ask about the unlimited Lord from the spiritual master in the disciplic succession of Brahma, which descends to Narada and Vyasa, from Vyasa to Shukadev, and so on. Text 43. Tushtam nishamya pitaram lokanam prapitamaham devarshi paripapracha bhavanyan manu prichati. The great sage Narada also inquired in detail from his father, Brahma, the great-grandfather of all the universe, after seeing him well satisfied. Purport. The process of understanding spiritual or transcendental knowledge from the realized person is not exactly like asking an ordinary question from the schoolmaster. The schoolmasters in the modern days are paid agents for giving some information, but the spiritual master is not a paid agent, nor can he impart instruction without being authorized. In the Bhagavad Gita 4.34, the process of understanding transcendental knowledge is directed as follows. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninais tattvadarshana. Arjuna was advised to receive transcendental knowledge from the realized person by surrender, questions, and service. Receiving transcendental knowledge is not like exchanging dollars. Such knowledge has to be received by service to the spiritual master. As Brahmaji received the knowledge directly from the Lord by satisfying him fully, similarly, one has to receive the transcendental knowledge from the spiritual master by satisfying him. The spiritual master's satisfaction is the means of assimilating transcendental knowledge. One cannot understand transcendental knowledge simply by becoming a grammarian. The Vedas declare, Yasya deve para bhaktir, yata deve tata guru, tasyaite kahita yarta, prakashante mahatmana. Only unto one who has unflinching devotion to the Lord and to the spiritual master does transcendental knowledge become automatically revealed, from the Svetasvatra Upanishad 6.23. Such relationship between the disciple and the spiritual master is eternal. One who is now the disciple is the next spiritual master, and one cannot be a bona fide and authorized spiritual master unless one has been strictly obedient to his spiritual master. Brahmaji, as a disciple of the Supreme Lord, received the real knowledge and imparted it to his dear disciple, Narada. And similarly, Narada, as spiritual master, handed over his knowledge to Vyasa, and so on. Therefore, the so-called formal spiritual master and disciple are not facsimiles of Brahma and Narada or Narada and Vyasa. The relationship between Brahma and Narada is reality, while the so-called formality is the relation between the cheater and the cheated. It is clearly mentioned herewith that Narada is not only well-behaved, meek, and obedient, but also self-controlled. One who is not self-controlled, specifically in sex life, can become neither a disciple nor a spiritual master. One must have disciplinary training in controlling speaking, anger, the tongue, the mind, the belly, and the genitals. One who has controlled the particular senses mentioned above is called a Goswami. Without becoming a Goswami, one can become neither a disciple nor a spiritual master. The so-called spiritual master without sense control is certainly the cheater, and the disciple of such a so-called spiritual master is the cheated. One should not think of Brahmaji as a dead great-grandfather, as we have experienced on this planet. He is the oldest great-grandfather, and he is still living. And Narada is also living. The age of the inhabitants of the Brahmaloka planet is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. The inhabitants of this small planet, Earth, can hardly calculate even the duration of one day of Brahma. Text 44. Tasma idam Bhagavatam Puranam dasa lakshanam Proktam Bhagavata praha Prita putraya bhutakrit. Thereupon the supplementary Vedic literature Srimad Bhagavatam, which was described by the personality of Godhead and which contains 10 characteristics, was told with satisfaction by the father Brahma to his son Narada. Purport. Although the Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken in 4 verses, it had 10 characteristics, which will be explained in the next chapter. The 4 verses, it is first said, in the 4 verses, it is first said that the Lord existed before the creation, and thus the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam includes Vedanta aphorism, Janmadasya. Janmadasya is the beginning, yet the 4 verses in which it is said that the Lord is the root of everything that be, beginning from the creation up to the supreme abode of the Lord, naturally explain 10 characteristics. One should not misunderstand the wrong interpretations that the Lord spoke only 4 verses and that therefore all the rest of the 17,994 verses are useless. The 10 characteristics, as will be explained in the next chapter, require so many verses just to explain them properly. Brahmaji had also advised Narada previously that he should expand the idea he heard from Brahmaji. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed this to Srila Rupa Goswami in a nutshell, but the disciple Rupa Goswami explained this very elaborately, and the same subject was further explained by Jiva Goswami, and even further by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. We are just trying to follow in the footsteps of all these authorities. So Srimad Bhagavatam is not like ordinary fiction or mundane literature. It is unlimited in strength, and however one may expand it according to one's own ability, Bhagavatam still cannot be finished by such expansion. Srimad Bhagavatam, being the sound representation of the Lord, is simultaneously explained in 4 verses and in 4 billion verses, all the same. Inasmuch as the Lord is smaller than the atom and bigger than the unlimited sky, such is the potency of Srimad Bhagavatam. Text 45. Narada prahamunaye saravatyastate nripa jayate brahma paramam vyasayamita tejase. In succession, O king, the great sage Narada instructed Srimad Bhagavatam unto the unlimitedly powerful Vyasadeva, who meditated in devotional service upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, on the bank of the river Saraswati. Purport. In the 5th chapter of the 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Narada instructed the great sage Vyasadeva as follows. Ato mahabhaga bhavan amogadrik suchi shrava satya rato drutavrata guru kramasya kila bandha muktaye samadhina usmara tadvichestitam. O greatly fortunate pious philosopher, your name and fame are universal, and you are fixed in the absolute truth with spotless character and infallible vision. I ask you to meditate upon the activities of the personality of Godhead, whose activities are unparalleled. So, in the disciplic succession of the Brahma Sampradaya, the practice of yoga meditation is not neglected, but because the devotees are bhakti yogis, they do not undertake the trouble to meditate upon impersonal Brahman, as indicated here. They meditate on Brahma Paramam, or the Supreme Brahman. Brahman realization begins from the impersonal effulgence, but by further progress of such meditation, manifestation of the Supreme Soul, Paramatma realization, takes place. And progressing further, realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is fixed. Sri Narada Muni, as the spiritual master of Vyasadeva, knew very well the position of Vyasadeva, and thus he certified the qualities of Srila Vyasadeva as fixed in the absolute truth with great vow, etc. Narada advised meditation upon the transcendental activities of the Lord. Impersonal Brahman has no activities, but the personality of Godhead has many activities, and all such activities are transcendental, without any tinge of material quality. If the activities of the Supreme Brahman were material activities, then Narada would not have advised Vyasadeva to meditate upon them. And the Param Brahma is Lord Sri Krishna, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. In the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna realized the factual position of Lord Krishna, he addressed Lord Krishna in the following words: Param Brahma Param Dhamma Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shasvatam Divyam Adi Devam Ajam Vibhum Ahustvam Rishaya Sarve Devashir Naradastata Asito Deva Lobhyasa Svayam Chaiva Bravishime. Arjuna summarized the purpose of Bhagavad Gita by his realization of Lord Krishna, and thus said, "My dear personality of Godhead, you are the supreme absolute truth, the original person, in the eternal form of bliss and knowledge. And this is confirmed by Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyasadeva. And above all, your personal self has also confirmed it," in Bhagavad Gita 10.12 through 13. When Vyasadeva fixed his mind in meditation, he did it in Bhakti Yoga trance and actually saw the Supreme Person within Maya. And saw the Supreme Person with Maya, the illusory energy, in contraposition. As we have discussed before, the Lord's Maya or illusion is also a representation, because Maya has no existence without the Lord. Darkness is not independent of light. Without light, no one can experience the contraposition of darkness. However, this Maya or illusion cannot overcome the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but stands apart from him, apashrayam. Therefore, perfection of meditation is realization of the personality of Godhead, along with his transcendental activities. Meditation on impersonal Brahman is a troublesome business for the meditator, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 12.5. Klesho dikat taras tesham avyakta shakta chaitasam. Text 46. Yarutaham tvayad prishto varhajat purushadidam yathasit tadupakshate prashan anyams cha krishnasa. O king, your questions as to how the universe became manifested from the gigantic form of the personality of Godhead, as well as other questions, I shall answer in detail by explanation of the 4 verses already mentioned. Purport. As stated in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, this great transcendental literature is the ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic knowledge, and therefore all questions that can be humanly possible regarding the universal affairs, beginning from its creation, are all answered in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The answers depend only on the qualification of the person who explains them. The 10 divisions of Srimad Bhagavatam, as explained by the great speaker Srila Shukadeva Goswami, are the limitation of all questions, and intelligent persons will derive all intellectual benefits from them by proper utilization. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 2nd canto, 9th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Answers by Citing the Lord's Version. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Shripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, Srila Acharya, Srila Shanta Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Jai Avadut Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jai Shringapoli Dham Ki Jai. Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Baladev Ki Jai. Jagannath Ju Ki Jai. Ganga Mai, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Giri Govardhan Gupta Govardhan Dham Ki Jai.
ki jai.
Ram Kund Radha Kund ki jai. Tulsi Devi
Jai.
Bhakti Devi Vrinda Devi ki jai. Jai Harinam
Jai.
Sankirtan Yagya ki jai. Scientific Sankirtan
Jai.
Yagya ki jai. Shriman
Jai.
Bhagavatam ki jai.
Ki
All
jai.
glories to the worldwide devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, Sama Bhakti Veda Vrinda ki jai.
Ki
Nitai
jai.
Gaur Pramanandi Hari 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 Bol.
Hari Hari Bol.
Dr. Zuhu.
Jai.
Hare
Pranam Dandavat.
Dhanyavad. Before we end, did you have any comments, Dr. Suhu?
Yes, I actually would like to understand what is the difference between intelligence and understanding.
The difference between intelligence and understanding.
And in understanding.
That may be a good question to clarify with Sripad Bhaktimadhava Puri Maharaj tomorrow, but I believe what he said in his talk at the conference was that actually they are the same. Intelligence,
Okay.
intelligence is coming from the Latin intelligere, and that is meaning to understand.
Yes.
So I think they're the same, and we can have a clearer idea of what understanding is by what Kant and Hegel said, right? Understanding is Verstand, which is coming before Vernunft, which is reason. So,
Okay.
so I believe the way Sripad Puri Maharaj has described it is that the understanding still holds things in their difference without seeing their identity. So it's only seeing how things are different from each other, but they're not seeing how they're unified in a higher universal conception. But it may be good to clarify with him tomorrow if you like.
Yes, because sometimes also experience also leads to understanding. So I just would like to whether understanding includes experience or not. That as you said that very rightly reason, but I just have a doubt that like in the Western parameters when we teach, mind has two way they have studied mind. One is the reason way and one is the experience.
I think
whether
experience is coming first because in Hegel's phenomenology of spirit, it's phenomenology. Phenomenology means the experience of consciousness. And so within the phenomenology of spirit, it starts with with senses, and then goes to perception, then to understanding, then to self-consciousness, and then to reason, and then to spirit. So that's all within the phenomenology, which means the experience of consciousness.
Okay, that's so nice of you. Thank you so much. We can have little bit discussion maybe tomorrow.
Yes, that'd be very nice.
Maharaj.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr.
That's
Suhu.
all.
Namaste.
Namaste. Dandavat.
Dhanyavad.
Pranam.